Kraven the Hunter, the movie that shows us that all you need is gear to become really big. Let's talk about the new movie now. Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watch Your Pass, and I'm here to talk about Kraven the Hunter, which is coming to theaters on December 13th, 2024. It is a new Sony Marvel film, so Sony has the Spider-Man version movies. Kraven is a Spider-Man villain slash hero-ish, hero villain, somewhere in between. So he is the next in the strange array of movies that Sony puts out. We've got Spider-Man, Venom, Madam Web, Kraven. It's gonna be a real weird Sinister Six when they finally get around to it, but hey, I guess we'll see. Oh, and also there's more Morbius. So not a great track record outside of like Spider-Man and Venom, but is Kraven the Hunter worth your time? Is it worth watching? Well, my hot take is I think you should pass on it. I wanted to like it. I like Aaron Taylor Johnson a lot, and I like the action and the setting at least, but overall, I thought it was a messy, long movie with not great writing or special effects. So I think you should pass on it. But all that being said, I'm going to tell you a little about the film, a few things I liked, a few things I didn't like, and then really quickly go into a recap. So as you can imagine, there will be spoilers in the recap section. If you don't know what happens in this movie, and you might not, I guess. I guess there's some surprises. Yay. I would skip the recap, but before that, though, I'll keep it vague. I'll keep it spoiler free. I'll let you know when I get to those spoilers. So, in Kraven the Hunter, you have Kraven, who's a hunter. There. He hunts bad guys. He has a list, kind of like Santa Claus, except if Santa murdered people that were bad, or like the naughty witch person from Red One. That's what Kraven does. He has a list, checks it twice, kills people, moves on. But all this comes to a head when his activities get noticed and they threaten something very important to him. So, things I liked about this movie. The first, I like the action. It has decent action, decent fighting, decent, gun combat, things like that. Decent car chase as well. Like the action is good. So if that is what you're into, then you might like this movie. The second thing I like the setting. It takes place in like London and then Africa. And so you have some really nice contrast. You've got like, the big city, you've got like the wild African Sahel, you got like the African like savannah, I guess. Yeah, the savannah. So you have a nice contrast there. It's very beautiful in both places for very, very different reasons. So, all that being said, things I didn't love as much. The first, the effects. The effects aren't great. I mean, there's a lot of animals. They're all CG from what I can tell. There's a lot of CG blood, which doesn't look great, which is kind of, I guess it's kind of a hallmark of comic book movies, but it just doesn't look very good. There's, CG in the movement because Craven moves superhuman, and some of it's good, some of it's decent, some of it, looks like kind of, movie magic, but other times it is clearly CG, especially like the long jumps and things like that. So it takes me out of it. It's not my favorite, and sometimes I can forgive it, but in this one, it was a little bit too noticeable for me. Second thing I didn't love the writing. The writing did not seem sharp. Some of the lines from some of the characters were not great, either fairly obvious or just kind of like dry. So I don't know. Maybe it's me. Maybe I just didn't like this character or this world, but I did not love the writing at all. So third thing I didn't love the story. It's kind of messy. It's all over the place. You get like, and this might just be because of the weird array of villains that Sony can pull from. You get some weird mutants. You get some weird characters here. I guess they're all kind of related to Kraven, but it was not my first choice. It's kind of like the last Jurassic World. I forget what it was because it was real bad, but feels like every dinosaur in there was some like weird, obscure dinosaur you've never heard of. It's kind of like this. I'm sure people who are more into like Kraven and the comic books will have heard of these characters, but for me, they just weren't super exciting. They weren't very interesting to me. And the last thing I didn't love, it's long. And I guess that's probably because it's both an origin story and a first adventure, so you're gonna have that overlap there. It happens, but it is long and it feels long. It doesn't feel as kind of tight as it could, and I know that there's probably no way that they could have shortened it because it doesn't have a crazy amount of plot points and things like that, but maybe the length plus the fact that I didn't really care about the mutants is part of why it felt long. So, all that being said, Kraven the Hunter comes to theaters on December 13th, 2024. Like I said, I think you should pass on it. But if you do see it, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I'd love to hear it. And I'm going to really quickly go into a recap right now. So if you don't know what happens in this movie, I would turn it off now because there will be spoilers. So, in Kraven the Hunter, you have Kraven the Hunter. Like I said, he's a hunter. He has a list like Santa Claus. He checks it twice and then kills people, kills bad people on the list. But one of the people on his list appears to be in Russia. The movie starts in Russia. There's a giant prisoner caravan, and the person on there is Kraven. Although he has this cool tattoo, and I didn't know anything about Kraven, so I was like, oh, sweet, he's got that tattoo on there. I didn't know that it was part of a disguise. But he's on the caravan to Russia. He goes to this prison in, I assume, Siberia. I don't remember exactly where it was, but probably Siberia. And when he's there, some Russian mob boss is in this prison. He gets a notice of that boss. He gets taken up there, and then he, says, "My name is Kraven. I'm a hunter, and you're essentially dead." And when he gets into this boss's prison cell, he pulls off a tooth from a like tiger rug in the boss's cell, and then murders the guards, and then murders the boss. And then he escapes because he's Kraven. He's super strong, super fast, super agile, has amazing senses. He escapes from this prison, apparently essentially invulnerable to bullets. They don't actually hit him, but he runs real fast and in weird patterns, so all the bullets miss him. He escapes into the wilderness. He escapes into the wild, jumps in a plane that was waiting for him, flies away. I don't know how Kraven makes money. He doesn't seem like he it seems like he has his own personal vendetta, and it seems like he doesn't like take contract jobs. So apparently he has enough resources to have a plane and a pilot that flies for him. Maybe she is part of his overall vengeance scheme as well. But Craven gets on this plane, flies away. Then we get some of the past. We find out where Craven comes from. We go to St. Michael's Academy. There are two Kravinov brothers. There is Sergei and Dmitri. Sergei is the older brother. He seems, a little bit more kind of imposing, although not super imposing yet. And Dmitri is the younger, kind of more sensitive brother. So their dad, Nikolai, comes to get them, and they don't know what's going on. And he jumps in there and he's like, "Your mother's dead. She committed suicide. We're all sad. We're gonna go hunting in Africa." You're like, "What?" It's in the middle of their semester, and he's like, "We're gonna feel better by being men and going hunting." And you're like, "Okay, I guess, sure." So they go on a plane and go to Ghana for a hunt. Okay. Also, down in Ghana, there is another random person. Her name is Calypso, and they make sure that you know this because her grandmother says Calypso like 6 times during the opening scene. It's like Calypso this, Calypso that. At least I remember her name. Couldn't say the same for Nikolai, their father. I had to look that one up. But anyways, Calypso is there. It seems like her grandmother is a like powerful mystic, I guess. She has a tarot deck. She's teaching Calypso to read tarot. Calypso reads her tarot, and there are 3 cards. There's a High Priestess, which is her, someone of power. There's a Tower, which I think is a challenge, and then there's Strength. And so her grandmother says, you're gonna need something soon. Something big is gonna test you, and you're gonna have to decide." And she gives her this potion. This potion that is in their family. She doesn't tell her what it does, but she's like, it'll give someone great strength. I'm like, okay, great. I mean, if I was her, I would be like, okay, great. I need great strength. I would drink it, become super strong, become super cool, but she doesn't do that. She holds on to it and waits. Now, Sergey and his brother Dmitri are out hunting. Neither of them really want to hunt, but they're out hunting, and they're hunting with their father, Nikolai, who is like a crime boss, essentially. And while he's there, this random person named Alexei comes up and asks to be his partner. And Nikolai insults him. He's like, "You're weak. I don't care about you. Don't talk to me again." You're like, that was weird. That was an odd point. Alexei comes back later. Anyways, during the hunt, Sergey sees this giant lion, and apparently Nikolai has been hunting for a very long time. It's a super dangerous lion, and Sergey just like looks at it. He has his gun aimed. He lowers his gun. Seems like him and the lion are essentially communing, I guess. And then his father shoots the lion, and the lion, for some reason, gets real pissed at Nikolai and goes and like attacks him, like starts mauling him, it, like scrapes him, bites him. His father shoots him like 2 more times, and the lion like picks up Sergey and like runs off. And you're like, okay, that's weird. Like the lion then is kind of protecting Sergey. And you're like, but you mauled him. You were the one that like slashed him first and bit him. Maybe the lion came to realization that it wasn't Sergey. I don't know. But in any event, the lion carries Sergey off into the woods and drops him at Callisto's feet. Callisto had like a feeling, not a vision, just a feeling. She walked off into the woods away from her parents, who were apparently lawyers on safari. They were in the middle of a safari, and Calypso just like walked off. And like, that is not a good idea, Calypso. Like, you do not want to do this in a strange land. But in any event, she does this, goes off into the wilderness, and she runs into this giant lion that's been shot 3 times. That's delivering this hurt boy to her. And so she like looks at the lion stands over it, the lion bleeds a drop of blood into Kraven, or into Sergey, and then the lion leaves. And then Calypso goes and is like, "Ah, that's what that quest was. this vial of serum or whatever, and she pours it into Sergei's mouth. And then I guess she calls the ambulance because you would think they would be like instantaneous, like most mutant powers. Like boom, all of a sudden he's super strong. Nope, he goes to the ambulance. They take him to the hospital. He recovers there. He dies for some amount of time. I want to say like 3 minutes, but I'm not 100% sure. And boom, he wakes up and he is super strong, I guess. So after Sergei leaves the hospital, his dad tells him, I want you to learn the family business. I want you to take over. And Sergei's like, no, I don't want to do that. And then the dad shows him the lion that hurt Sergei. He had killed it. He mounted the head on his wall, and Sergei's like, "You should have been the one to die." And then Sergei packs up and leaves and goes off into the wilderness. He goes, according to him, a little bit later, he says, like, "I went as far away from my father as I could," which isn't actually true because I think his father's business is in Russia. I think maybe. And Sergei goes to his maybe his father's business is in New York. I'm not 100% sure where his father's business is, but Sergei goes to his like mother's family land to like a geo tent and lives there and lives on the land. There we go. So Kraven, we first see Kraven. He is like a defender of the animals, I guess, but he also seems to want to kill a lot of other people. But the first thing we see from him, other than that initial opening scene, he kills some poachers that were poaching on his area, and he gets most of them. Two of them escape. He tracks them down to London, kills them there, and adds to his list, his mythical list that he's building now. And that was like the origin of Kraven. Now, fast forward to current time, we see Calypso. She's at a funeral for her friend Samantha, who was gunned down for standing up to some sort of crime boss. And Calypso's there, and for some reason, Sergei is there too. He's over in the side. And after the funeral, Calypso goes and walks away, and Sergei goes up to her. They reconnect. He shows her like the tarot card that she gave him when he was a kid and whatnot. And we find out that the crime boss that was killed in Siberia was the person that gunned down Calypso's friend Samantha. And he's like, look it up. He's dead. And she like opens up her phone or whatever and like sees a bunch of news stories about this. One of them is Daily Bugle, which is fun. But you're like, I feel like you would know if you're speaking at a funeral for your friend who was killed by this mob boss, you probably would have had an alert, some sort of alert. It'd be weird to have it be brand new information. But in any event, that is what happened. So now that that mob boss is dead, though, someone wants to move in on his territory. This person that looks kind of like a Mormon missionary. He is in like slacks and a white shirt, like a tight-fitting white shirt, and has like a little backpack on. You're like, okay, this is a weird supervillain. He is trying to take over the territory. He is the Rhino, and his power is he has this like backpack with a tube that goes into his body that if he unhooks it, his body starts to change, become gray, become super strong. He gets like essentially turns into a rhino, but he's in a ton of pain, so he doesn't like to do that. So he usually has this little tube hooked up, and that's why he has that little backpack on all the time. That's the Rhino. I mean, he's okay. He's not a great villain. So that's the main villain. And then we also meet this new villain called the Foreigner, which he was also not really a great villain. He was this guy that had like sunglasses on, and he would go up to people, and sometimes he would remove his sunglasses. Sometimes it feels like he wouldn't, but they'd like say, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he'd count like one, two, three, and at one, he would like move. It almost felt like he could like stop time and then move for like 3 seconds. That's why he was counting like one, two, three because he would after 3 seconds they would like look and he'd be gone and oh he's usually behind them with whatever weapon they have and he like shoots them. That was the Foreigner. That was the other villain. So you have the Rhino and the Foreigner. There we go. I called the Foreigner 1, 2, 3 man throughout. I forgot that his name was the Foreigner, but he's the Foreigner. So those are our two supervillains. Now every year on Dimitri's birthday, Sergei goes to say happy birthday to his brother, and so this year they have a lovely dinner. His dad shows up. Sergei doesn't seem to like his dad, but they have a dinner. And the next day, Dimitri gets kidnapped. He gets kidnapped by a crew. Sergei sees this. He pursues. It's a pretty fun action scene. Like there's a car aspect to it. There's a helicopter aspect to it. Unfortunately, the bad guys get away, and so Dimitri is kidnapped. Now, all his dad has to do is pay $20 million to get his brother back, and his dad doesn't want to pay. He doesn't want to show weakness. If he shows weakness, then he's going to lose his grip on the criminal underworld, and he'll lose everything he's built. So Sergei has to go into action. He uses Calypso. Calypso is a investigative lawyer, so she finds some information on where the kidnapping was. Turns out this person Amir Adzanar, and Sergey goes off to find him. But apparently that information was planted by the 123 man or the foreigner. And so he planted that information to lure Sergey into a trap. At the monastery, Sergey gets in there, takes them all out. Eventually, though, the trap is sprung. They shoot like an RPG into the monastery. Sergey and takes Amir. They jump out of the window, and at the last minute, Amir tells him what happened before he dies. The Rhino hired him. So now over at the Rhino's place, we find out why Dimitri was taken. We think, okay, Dimitri was taken to bribe his dad, to like extort money from his dad. No, no, no. Dimitri was taken because the Rhino is on Kraven's list. The Rhino knows who Kraven is. Sergey tried to maintain a secret identity, but someone sent the Rhino a video that showed who Kraven was. And so now that the Rhino knew who Kraven was, he kidnapped Dimitri to force Kraven's hand because Kraven put the Rhino on his list, and so the Rhino wanted to be the one hunting Kraven, not the other way around. We also find out why the 123 man is involved, and this is because the foreigner's mentor was a hitman that was taken out by Kraven, and so the foreigner was very angry. It was like a brother essentially, or at least maybe like a dad, some very, very important person in his life, and so he wants to get Kraven for revenge. There you go. That is how they all connect. Now, eventually, it all comes down on Kraven's property. The place he lives is like mother's property. The Rhino and the 123 man track him down there. They team up. They go. They take him out. And so it's just Kraven, and apparently Calypso's there too. Calypso decides to come, and she's like gearing up for battle. I was like, "What are you going to do? You're a lawyer. What are you going to litigate him to death?" But we will see. Maybe she has some skills. She apparently has some bow hunting skills. Maybe she has some nunchuck skills too. I'm not sure. We don't see that. But she is going to help as well. So they get ready to fight the Rhino and the 123 man. There we go. Eventually, a bunch of the Rhino's hunters go to try to take out Kraven. He's too good for them. He's too cunning. He takes out all the hunters. And so the 123 man, I'm going to keep calling him that because he's just a lame character. He's the foreigner. The foreigner comes and like uses his counting powers to shoot Kraven with a dart. I don't know why he doesn't just shoot him with a gun. If you can shoot him with a dart, you can shoot him with a gun. It's kind of like if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a dodgeball. If you can shoot him with a dart, which is slower, he could have just shot him in the face with a gun. I think he wanted to have him suffer, just like his mentor, I guess, suffered. So he shoots him with this like experimental MI6 drug that when it hits you, it like envelopes your worst fears and then like paralyzes you and then kills you. So he does this. Kraven's worst fear is apparently spiders, which was surprising. I don't know. I thought it would be like abandonment. But anyways, it was spiders. That's because his mother was afraid of spiders. So that happened. And then he started to get paralyzed, and the 123 man shoots him a couple more times with some more darts. And then he gets a gun, and he's getting ready to shoot him. And he counts 1, 2. On 3, he usually kills. But nope. Boom. He gets shot with an arrow. I think right through the head. Turns out Calypso has some pretty good bow hunting skills. She killed the 123 man even when he was stopping time. That was weird. We don't ever find out how, but there we go. So she runs up to Dimitri, but he's not doing well, even though he has superpowers. He has 3 darts in him, so he's fighting it off. Lucky for us, she has another vial of that serum that her grandmother made. And we don't know if this is a new vial that she makes, because we don't know if she knows this formula, or if she has just kept this bottle of serum for 20 years on her, on the off chance that someone would need it. And it hasn't dried up in 20 years. This is the most amazing corked case ever, because it's a little vial. You'd think it would dry up or leak or, I don't know, get dropped at some point. But nope, it's there. She pours the liquid into Kraven. He gets more super strength, or at least back to his super strength, and he survives the poison. But we still have the Rhino. We've beaten the 123 man, but the Rhino's still here, and he has Dimitri. So Kraven goes after the Rhino. The Rhino tries to drive away. Kraven uses a stampede of oxen, something like that, to take out the Rhino's convoy, and eventually forces the Rhino to fight him. The Rhino unplugs his, colostomy bag or whatever, and then they start to fight. Rhino's super strong, super powerful. Kraven can't really do much. His weapons aren't doing anything. Even though he's super strong, he can't break the Rhino's skin. But eventually, he's able to take a pole and jab it into the port on the Rhino, and that is apparently weak. That's the weak spot of it, and so this hurts the Rhino a lot. After this, he ties him up with a cable, hooks the cable onto one of the ox things, and they start running. They trample the rhino a couple times, and you're like, okay, like that would hurt, but the rhino was stopping trucks. Like trucks going full bore, the rhino was just stopping with his like super skin. What is an ox gonna do? Apparently it hurts him a lot because that is what kills him. He gets trampled by ox. So before the rhino dies, though, Kraven goes up to him and asks him where he got the video. And the rhino says, how is it that even the great hunter can't see what was right in front of him? And then he says something like, I wish I never met you, Kravinoff, and then dies. So that's a hint. We now have to go figure out. And then we go to northern Russia. We see Kraven's dad, Nikolai, camping, and Kraven goes up to him and they talk. And Kraven's like, "You sent the video, didn't you?" And his dad was like, "Yep, yes, I did." But the Rhino was a rival. His dad Nikolai needed to use Kraven to help him, and he knew that Kraven wouldn't help him, but he would help his little brother. So he sent the video to the Rhino. The Rhino initiated this whole plan, and Nikolai got what he wanted. He got his strong son to kill the Rhino. All's well that ends well. I mean, Dmitri lost a finger, so that's not great for him. But I mean, everything else was pretty good. So good job, Nikolai. Well, Sergey doesn't take too kindly to this. He gets mad at his dad. He says, "I could have come for you years ago, but I didn't." He couldn't do it because it was his dad. And his dad's like, "I still am." But then Sergey walks away and he's like, "Never fear death. Isn't that what you taught me?" And then we see a giant CG, really horrible looking bear come at Nikolai. Nikolai has a gun, but there's no bullets. Sergey took out the bullets. He wanted his dad to fight with the, two hands that he had and apparently the bottles of vodka. His dad isn't a very good fighter. He's a good shot, but without bullets, not much he's gonna do. The bear mauls his dad. And you're like, I feel like Dimitri's lifestyle was fueled by his father. So without his father, what's he gonna do? Well, we find out 1 year later. Dimitri's a singer at his club. Sergey goes for his annual happy birthday. They meet up, they have a good time, and then Dimitri says that, he is stronger now. He found a doctor in New York. Maybe the same doctor that did experiments on the rhino to make the rhino. So you're like, oh, that's ominous. And Dimitri's like, he helped me, he changed me. And basically, Dimitri is now taking over both his father and the rhino's turf because it was all out there for the taking. Someone needed to take it, and Dimitri could do it. Um, and Kraven gets really mad at him. He's like, I didn't pull you out of the fire to become a man like our father. And Dimitri's like, I chose to do this. I wanted to be strong. So looks like we're going to have some future conflict between our two brother friends. And so Dimitri then walks away. Uh, Kraven follows him, grabs him on the shoulder, turns him around, and Dimitri transforms into Kraven's face. It's like looking right at him. And Dimitri's always been like a pretty good chameleon. He's always been able to imitate voices. There were some funny lines where he like imitated the father's voice occasionally. He would imitate his captors, things like that. Well, now apparently he can do more than imitate. I guess that doctor gave him changing abilities essentially. So now he essentially calls himself the chameleon, and he's taking over the underworld turf. And so after Dimitri and Sergey have this, discussion, Dimitri says, "Go home, Kraven," and flicks him in the ear. That's something that Sergey used to do with Dimitri, because Sergey was the bigger one. He was the older brother. He would just tease him a little bit. Well, now apparently Dimitri's the big dog, and so he flicks Sergey. Sergey goes back home. Dimitri told him that his dad left him something there, so he goes back home and he sees a box and a note from his dad. He opens it up, and it's a note from his dad in English. I'm like, why would your Russian father tell your Russian son that you love so much a letter in English? Most of the other stuff was in Russian. I don't know why this was in English. It was weird. It should have been in Russian. Another thing, young Sergey has a real thick, like, I don't know, southern drawl almost. It was a weird accent. It didn't sound Russian. Maybe Kraven didn't grow up in Russia, but I thought that they said that he could speak Russian. I thought that they had a bunch of Russian subtitles early on, and he at least was able to speak Russian when he took out the convoy, so he definitely can speak some Russian. Weird. Anyways, his heavily accented Russian father wrote his Russian son a note in English as the last note. And it basically says like, we're hunters, we're the greatest the world has ever known, something, 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 something. And then he opens up the box, and it's the the vest that Kraven's known for, with like a lion's mane. And so Kraven puts it on, sits down in that Kraven pose. If you've seen any of the comic books, that's what he kind of looks like. And there we go. That's the movie. Kraven has become the hunter, and now he has to hunt Dimitri. It was weird though, that he put on this vest because that vest is made of lion's mane from the lion that he loves so much. You'd think he would be so upset about this. You'd think he wouldn't like this. It's a gift from his father, like a slap in the face. He's like, ha, I killed this lion and now I made you a vest from it. Enjoy. But Kraven's like, no, no, this is a nice vest. I will put it on and now I will be the hunter in the house that my father has that I hate so much. But there we go. That is Kraven the Hunter. Also, there is no stinger, so you don't have to stay for the credits, which is weird. It felt like there were enough plot points set up that they could have had at least some stinger. Something with Calypso, something with the chameleon, uh, anything else. I don't know. Some other, prey person, the next villain that the Kraven is going to hunt, some other, I don't know, wolf or I don't know, whatever. But they should have had anything. They didn't. They just credits, done. That's Kraven the Hunter. Like I said, I think you should probably pass on it. You can probably get that from my review. But in any event, if you do watch it, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I'd love to hear it. And thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.